In this video, we are going to start with question 3. We are going to start with question 3. Okay. So without wasting any time, we will start with question 3.1. So we are told that Tammy has a bakery and he supplies wedding and birthday cakes to local supermarkets. He was requested to bake a birthday cake with the following dimensions and specifications. So the cake that Tammy is going to bake has the top tier and the bottom tier. And the top tier has a diameter of 20 centimeter and a height of 15 centimeter. And it will be covered with icing except at the bottom. Okay, so the bottom tier has a radius of 12.5 centimeters, the height of 200 millimeters, and it will be covered with icing except for the bottom of the cake and the top surface area on which the top tier will be resting. So without wasting any time, let's just go ahead and answer our set of questions. So our first question will be question 3.1.1. So question 3.1.1 says that identify the shape of the top tier of the cake. We need to identify the top of the top tier of the cake. So we can see that our cake is represented in this form, and this is a circle. We can see that is a circle, meaning that our answer would easily be a cylinder. So the shape would be a cylinder. A cylinder, because we don't have a circle as a shape. So it's a cylinder. It's a cylinder. Okay, so now let's move to the next question, which is question 3.1.2. So question 3.1.2 says that convert the temperature required to bake this cake to F, which is Fahrenheit. So this is very straight to the point. So if we look at the information that we are given, we are told that the cake should be baked at 180 degrees Celsius. So we're just going to replace the 180 on our formula. So our answer will be F equals to degrees Celsius, which is 180, multiplied by 9/5 plus 32. So our answer will be, these are free marks, guys. These are free marks. So it will be 180 multiplied by 9 divided by 5 plus 32. And the answer will be 356. 356. Okay, so now let's move to the next question, which is question 3.1.3. Question 3.1.3. So question 3.1.3 says that calculate the volume of the top tier. So we are going to calculate the volume of the cake on top. Okay, and we are also given the formula to do that. So our formula would be volume is equals to pi r squared multiplied by our height. So in this case, we can see that we are not given our r, which is our radius, but we are given our diameter, and we know that radius is equals to diameter divided by 2. Okay, meaning that our diameter in this case it was 20 centimeters, meaning that our radius will be 20 divided by 2, and it will be equals to 10 centimeters, meaning that now we can be able to calculate our volume. So our volume will be pi. So pi is 3.142 multiplied by our r, which is 10. So it will be 10 squared, and then multiply again by our by our height, which is 15, So our volume will be 3.142 multiplied by 10 to the power 2 multiplied by 15. So our volume will be 4713 centimeter cube. So this will be our volume. Okay, so now let's move to our next question, which is question 3.1.4. But before we do that, let's create a bit of space. Let's create a bit of space. So we'll start with question 3.1.4. So question 3.1.4 says that determine the surface area of the bottom tier that will be covered with icing. You may use the following formula. So we need to calculate the surface area. So the surface area that we are going to calculate now, it is for the entire bottom cake that is covered with icing. It's for the entire bottom cake. So we are told that we can use the following formula, which is the surface area formula. So the formula is given: surface area is equals to pi r squared plus 2 pi r h, which is our height. So in this case, we can see that our height is given in millimeters, and if we want to convert from millimeters to centimeters, we just divide by 10. And some of you might be asking yourself that why are we converting our height into centimeters? So if we are calculating something, or if we are calculating the surface area of the volume, we need to measure them in the same way. So it's either we measure them in millimeters or we measure them in centimeters. But in this case, everything else was given in centimeters, so we can easily just convert our height into centimeters. So our height was 200 millimeters, so we'll just divide by 10 so that's how we convert from millimeters to centimeters. We divide by 10. Okay, so 200 divided by 10, our answer will be 20, meaning that our height will now be 20 centimeters. I hope that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so our formula, now we have our complete formula, and let's go ahead and calculate our surface area. So we know that our pi is 3.142, and then we will multiply by our r. So our radius was given for the bottom tier cake, which was 12.5 centimeters. So it will be multiplied by 12.5 to the power 2. So the 2 is on our formula. And then we have a plus sign here. So we'll come and say plus 2 multiplied by our pi, which is 3.142 and then multiplied by our R, which is 12.5, and then multiply by our height, which is 20. And then our surface area will be, it will be 3.142 multiplied by 12.5 to the power 2 plus 2 multiplied by 3.142 multiplied by 12.5 multiplied by 20, and our surface area will be 2061.9375. So this is our surface area, but this has icing. This has icing on. This includes icing everywhere on the surface. Okay, so it includes icing everywhere on the surface. But remember that the top tier cake bottom does not have icing. So it's basically like this. So this area here that has the top tier cake, it does not have icing. But here we calculated icing for everything on the surface. So now we need to remove this area that does not have icing. And how do we do that? We do that by removing the area of our top tier cake. So we need to find the area of our top tier. And how do we do that? Our area of our top tier would be pi multiplied by r squared, which is our radius. Okay, and now we'll come and say 3.14. So you need to know this formula of the area. So we'll come and say 3.142 because it was not given. So it's 3.142 multiplied by our radius, and our radius for the top tier was 10, so it will be 10 to the power 2, and then this will be equals to, so it's 3.142 multiplied by 10 to the power 2, so it will be 314.2. So we need to remove this. So our surface area will then be 2061.9375 minus 314.2. It will be 2061.9375 minus 314.2, and our answer will be 1747.7375. So this is our surface area of the bottom tier. So we have removed this part. So it's like we have removed icing on this part that does not have icing. Okay, so now we need to move to our next question, which is question 2.2. So now we need to move to question 2.2. So before we do that, we can just create a bit of space. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, guys, so that you can keep up to date with our maths literacy content. Okay, so now let's move to question 3.2. So question 3.2, we are told that after icing the cake, Tammy will put a ribbon around the top tier to decorate it, and the ribbon will overlap by 2.2 centimeters. Determine the length of the ribbon. So we need to determine the length of the ribbon, And we are also told that you may use the following formula. So we need to use the circumference formula. So remember this, the circumference. So let's say this is our cake. The circumference is the total distance around our cake, for instance. So it is the total distance around our cake. So we can use it to calculate to determine the what is the question again? To determine the length of the ribbon. And we are also told that the ribbon overlapped by 2.2 centimeters. So it overlapped by 2.2 centimeters. Okay, so we are going to use the circumference formula. So we are going to use the circumference formula, which is equals to 2 pi r. And remember, we are told that we are only focusing on the top tier, on the top part of the cake. So our answer will be 2 multiplied by our pi, which is 3.142, multiplied by our radius, which is 10. So the radius of our top tier was 10. Okay, and our answer will be 2 multiplied by 3.142 multiplied by 10, and it will be 62.84. 62.84. And we are told that our ribbon overlapped by 2.2 centimeters, meaning that now we also need to account for the 2.2. We need to account for the 2.2. So we'll come and say 62.84 plus 2.2. And our answer will be, so it's 62.84 plus 2.2. So our answer will be 65.04 centimeters. And what does overlap mean? So remember, the circumference is the total distance around our cake, but the distance has an additional overlap or length of 2.2 centimeters. So besides it just being around the cake, it has an overlap of 2.2 that we also had to account for it, because here we are calculating the total distance of our ribbon. So our ribbon had an overlap of 2.2 besides the circumference that we just calculated. That's why we had to add 2.2. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so now let's move to question 3.3. 3.3. So question 3.3 says that Tammy started baking the cake at 12 minutes to 8. 12 minutes to 8. And the cake was ready at the time displayed on the clock analog due to load shedding interruptions. And then now we are told to, so before we get to that, we are going to start with our first question, which is question 3.3.1. So question 3.3.1 says that express the time displayed on the clock in 24-hour format. So we can see that the small arrow pointing on our time will be pointing at 10. So the small one is pointing at 10, and meaning that our time will be 22, and the bigger one is also pointing at, so the bigger one is pointing at 2, which means 10 past. So it will be 10 past 10. Okay, so now let's move to our second question, which is question 3.3.2. Okay, so question 3.3.2 says that determine the time taken for the cake to be baked. Express your answer in hours. So from So we are told that Tammy started baking at 12 minutes to 8 and finished at 10 past 10. So if we calculate from 12 minutes to 8 to 10 past 10, we will see that Tammy took 2 hours and 22 minutes. 2 hours and 22 minutes. But the question said that determine or express your answers in hours. So the answer that we have here now is expressed in hours and minutes. And if you remember, we know that if you want to convert minutes into hours, we divide by 60. We divide by 60. So in this case, we are going to say 22 minutes, 22 divided by 60, because we know that in an hour we have 60 minutes. And if we 22 divided by 60, and if we divide, we will get something like 0.37, meaning that now we are going to add 2 plus 0.37, and our answer will be 2.37 hours. So now our answer is represented in hours. So we added 0.37 because we converted 22 minutes into hours. So this is where it is coming from. Okay, so now let's move to our next question for question 3, which is our last question for question 3, which is question 3.3.2. So question 3.3.2, question 3.3.3. Question 3.3.3 says that suggest an alternative source of power that can be used to beat load shedding. So it can be solar, or it can be, for instance, a generator. Yeah, and there can be other alternative sources as well. So this brings us to the end of question 3.